Welcome to Let's Get To, the baseball show from the fans' perspective. Now here's your host, James Christopher.
This is James Christopher. We are live for the first time, and of course, we already have a mistake because that's like the opening from a year and a half ago. Like, where's the whole? I don't know why. I should check these things. But joining me, some of my favorite people on the planet. We've got Andy Tom Chesson. You know him from Go Go Astros and a producer on this show, as well as, unfortunately, our less excited member of Yell Fight Suey. What do you do?
It's over. All of it.
Speaking of Yell Fight Suey, we got Scotty Mack, who's our co-host of that show and producer on Let's Get To You. Scotty, how you doing?
Great. Every team I love's mired in mediocrity.
Yeah, you. And we've got Paul Caputo. You guys know him from the Baseball by Design podcast, and he's kind of the fashion reporter for Let's Get. How you like that, Paul? That's pretty cool.
I am happy to be the fashion correspondent for Let's Get To. I kind of love this. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a wildlife correspondent.
Yep.
I get to have a fashion one. And then we've got Dustin Fishman. He was actually one of our big award winners for the Corpus Christi Hooks for our Let's Get To Dottie Awards. Dustin, thanks so much for riding with us tonight. It's going to be a crazy trip.
I don't know what I got myself into, but I'm ready for it.
Well, we are excited. Again, this is the first time we've done this live. We are excited to kind of start unveiling where we're going. And part of the reason why we did this, guys, is, the show's a little different. It takes us a lot to coordinate, to shoot, to edit. And so really we start planning where we're going. Well, considering before we logged on, I already told y'all where two of our trips for 2024 will be. So we start planning this stuff pretty early on. And so I'm excited to start to finally get to unveil where it is that will be. But first things first, I know, Paul, you already did. Look at that. Paul's on it. Doggone it. Okay. So obviously the first stop, does anybody want to guess what the first stop will be since I live in Austin, Texas?
Oh.
How about the Round Rock Express will be number one on our list as per usual. Have you guys, who's been out to Del Diamond? I know, Scott, you've been with me. Dustin, have you been out there yet?
Not yet. I'm coming up on a year down here in Corpus, so I've got that on my list of places to go.
Okay, Scott, I know you've been there. Andy, what was your impressions of the Del? How long has it been since you've been out there?
Well, I was out there picking up a jersey, an Avengers jersey for you not too long ago. I was actually part of a group that had season tickets for the inaugural season way back in 2000, whatever that was, 1 or 2. It's a full-fledged AAA park now. It is an entertainment venue, bar none out there in Round Rock. And it's a lot of fun, whether you're a fan of the team that they're affiliated with, which nobody is, or not. But it's a good time, great pro shop, great eats at the stadium, and great sight lines throughout. So it's fun. It's a fun time.
I do have a question for Paul here in a minute about that, but it's funny because you said no matter what team you're on. And, those of you who know my wife know she's the nicest person. We're sitting about halfway through the game, and she's like, "It seems less fun since we don't actually are not Rangers fans." And I can see from that perspective, but it's always fun to get out for minor league baseball. Scott, what about you? We were out there just to watch an Arkansas baseball game.
We were out there in sleet. That was great. No, I think they renamed one of the recliners in the right center field bar after Jim because we spent so much time out there. It's a beautiful park. You can't take anything away from that. It's like Andy said, the sight lines are great. Everything's wonderful about the park. The dimensions are great. Dimension porn, baby. I've got no complaints about that. I mean, it's Texas. Ballparks in Texas look good. They look good.
Right, Dustin? I mean, working at one of the best ones, we kind of get a little crazy with our ballparks. Did that shock you when you started working in the Texas League, how involved our ballparks are?
Yeah, I mean, it was very different. Now, you also have to think that I did come from Biloxi, where the backdrop is a casino right on the water there.
Yeah.
But even that was still a little bit smaller, whereas compared to here, the size, at least, of Whataburger Field is ridiculous to me. It's awesome to have that much space, but I mean, it's all encompassing. You want to have as much as you can to offer that fullest experience, and having stadiums these size it's ideal to have.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Paul, you've not been out here since you and I have not had Salt Lick together, which means you've not
True.
been here because that would be a requirement.
Yeah.
When the branding shift to the Rangers, did you notice anything big, any big changes? I know some of the faux back looks kind of changed. Anything that kind of stuck out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to point out that the Round Rock Express are one of 2 teams in affiliated minor league baseball named for Nolan Ryan pitches, along with the Corpus Christi Hooks. So this is, I've always enjoyed that about it. And then, absolutely, yeah. The Round Rock Express updated their look, courtesy of Brandios, when they changed affiliations. They updated their colors. They introduced a logo that actually had the rock itself in it. Just an updated look that pretty understated for Brandios's work, but it was definitely brought the color scheme sort of back around to some of the original team colors from its early iterations.
Yeah, it's interesting because it is a much more. Obviously, there's a lot of ways to go in minor league baseball, and I think the hooks will, as we get there, will fit the same mold too. Where it's definitely there's a certain classy element to it, right? Like it's not quite as goofy as some, and I kind of appreciate that. I like the fact that in minor league baseball we can have both things. Now, talking about crazy, our second trip, we're going to be seeing them on Good Friday. It seems appropriate to be at a ballpark on Good Friday. Finally, going to get to see the Rocket City Trash Pandas. Look, we all know where the name comes from. But Paul, first to you, man. Just overall, like since that branding's so new, what was that process like?
Well, here's a team that their first year was 2020, right? Their first year was a year that wasn't. They sold $4 million worth of gear in a year where they didn't play a game, and so obviously this is another Brandios brand, hugely popular, even if people don't like baseball. The Trash Panda. I actually had on my episode about this team for the Baseball by Design podcast. I had a literal rocket scientist from Alabama, from NASA, on the podcast to come on. He was a college baseball pitcher, and he came on and he talked about being nearby the Trash Pandas, and they love it, right? Like the NASA folks there love it. The aeronautics industry. We talked about, could you build a trash can that could actually like exit the Earth's atmosphere? And we had a great conversation about it.
Well,
he said it would have to be a really strong trash can, and that they would. That
so the
NASA
kind the
would like
Astros had in 17.
I was, I didn't. In my head, I didn't even go there with trash can jokes, right? Like so.
And that's why you're welcome back to the show anytime.
Just an awesome brand. Just really hit the mark. The fact that they sold so much gear in a year when they didn't play a game is actually remarkable to me. So I'm jealous that you're going to get to go and see a game there. I think it's going to be an amazing ballpark, and I wish I could be there with you on that one.
Yeah, it's fun because Dustin, you said you were from Biloxi. Now this brand is a little bit more in line with that. Like the Biloxi Shuckers are also a little weird, and it's a lot of fun. And by the way, you can get really good gumbo in the ballpark there.
Great gumbo. That's the thing is, like I said, there's so many different elements to it where it's not just the game. You've got the entire experience there. And with the Trash Pandas, I liked it because there's some crazy and out there that even me working in minor league baseball, I think it might be a little too far to go, but I really feel like they really killed that design, that it was like just far enough that it didn't push anyone too far off the edge, that you still wanted to, consume all of that material or get the merch and experience, Trash Pandas baseball and the brand.
Scott, sometimes I feel like your taste, I'm going to make assumptions here. Your tastes kind of tend to go away from the uber goofy. But on a scale of 1 to 10, how kind of stoked would you be to get out to a ball game here?
Well, the Trash Pandas, because it's Rocket City, right? There is a specific tie-in to Huntsville and what they do there, right? With the whole it's space camp that everybody's kid has either been invited to or heard about or something. So
especially Tate Donovan.
Yeah, it's perfect branding for where they're at. I completely agree that there are some of them go too far and just get goofy, and I bash my head into the wall about it. But in this case, I'm good with it. I'm like, yeah, I'd go to a ball game. Sure, why not? Especially because it's in April and it's in Huntsville, because that gets hot in July. Yeah. So April sounds a lot better.
Well, the other thing too on that trip is there's another stop, and Andy, I want to get your take on this when we jump to it. But this is the only team that I know of that's ever turned their ballpark into an Airbnb. Hello, Pensacola Blue Wahoos, which if you've been out there, please by all means chime in. But this was one of the ones where just looking at the ballpark, like the backdrop's going to be epic. Andy, have you been out or what do you know about the ballpark?
I've been to Pensacola. I've not been up to a ballpark there, but it's on. We have this never-ending quest to go do a spring training trip, and it has never worked out. And I've finally decided once I get my damn kids off the payroll, I'm going to be able to just do that. I'm going to be able to go to a spring break trip that I want to go to, and not for the 5,000th time.
You realize they never get off the payroll, right? They never get off the payroll.
Hey, my favorite thing about the Trash Pandas, we'll go back there for just a second, is that they didn't pay Marvel or Disney a dime for that name, which I'm really, really happy about.
Yes.
But no, I love the branding for the Wahoos. I'm excited to get your take on the park before I get to go there. Everything looks very fun the way they've presented stuff on their website and things I've seen on their social media.
Dustin, I mean, when you were I know you've still getting your feet wet in Corpus, but were you able to get out much to the ballparks around Biloxi while you were there?
I got to go to a couple down there. Pensacola was one.
Okay, so prep me. What do I need to know?
I think it's called the Crabzilla. There's something there that is just absolutely ridiculous that I would say you need to take advantage of. Now, in 2019, we were playing in Pensacola in the playoffs, and in the regular season, we actually had the seafood series, and the Shuckers had won it. So we got a nice little trip to go out there and a whole seafood platter. That was back when the jumbo shrimp were still within that realm. So between the jumbo shrimp, the Shuckers, and Pensacola, we ate great that night. Now, I don't think we ended up getting the win, but the experience overall, the ballpark itself, it's got a really homey feel to it. It's definitely not too big, but you don't feel confined when you're inside. It's kind of the perfect size because there's some ballparks I feel like you go to and it just kind of feels a little too big, but I feel like they built that stadium perfect. The team over there, super nice. So I think you're going to have a really great time out that way.
Definitely need to try this Crabzilla thing. Now, our next trip, I'm going to let Mr. Tom Chesson announce where we're headed. And now all of a sudden we can't hear you. This is live TV, baby.
It's the only stadium. I was choked up because I'm so emotional about it. It's the only stadium that features a 6-string scoreboard, and that's the Nashville Sounds. And not only are we going there, but it's going to be a James Christopher, Scotty Mack, Andy trip. So there will be a lot that we record that we don't use because we want to stay out of jail.
Bourbon will be involved.
It's a fun park. I've been there once or twice before, sporting some of the merch because they've got some really awesome merch in their pro store, including the throwback look that I have on today. My favorite restaurant in that area is Von Elrod's, just right across the main opening of the main gate. It is a beer hall and sausage kitchen. And that's not
a real sausage fest.
That's not a euphemism. And I knew you were going to go there. And I know now Scotty's all excited. But it's a fun park. It's very similar to the Dell Diamond. I think they were probably constructed around the same time, or at least use the same architectural firm. Great sight lines. The scoreboard, the big 6-string guitar scoreboard, dominates the skyline that looks into downtown Nashville. So it's a lot of fun. I think the other thing that's going to be fun to get out there, it's probably 5 years from being replaced by a major league stadium in that market. So I think it's going to be fun to get out there for posterity's sake.
Yeah. You've been beating that drum that's going to happen soon. I know that's been one of your big wishes, at least. Now, listen, I'm going to do the next one, but Dustin, I don't know if you're off, I want to personally invite you to this. And I know Paul's going to make his effort to get out there. Scott's going to be out there. Andy's going to be out there. We're going to be celebrating our 5th birthday at the Omaha Storm Chasers. Anybody who's watching this now, which right now, not many, or who's watching it later, come out. We are going to be, let's get to springing for a suite. We are going to basically roll out the red carpet and celebrate what has been 5 wild years on the show. And most importantly, I thought I would celebrate the 5th year at the beginning of the year because sometimes by the end, I'm very tired.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah,
I know I drop in, Scott. He's not the best color man in the game for nothing.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I didn't know if you were teeing me up or who, but boy, it felt like dead air. And we're live, baby. We're live. No, I'm looking forward to chasing some storms with you guys. I'm hoping everybody gets to come out there and we get to pack in the suite. I know Andy wants to rub up against me in the suite. I probably won't let him this time, but I know that's what he wants. Keep
all
to
you
yourself,
cost,
Andy.
all you cost is 2 beers, sir.
We also want to make sure everybody knows, especially in the Let's Get To team, like we definitely want spouses or significant others to come out, mostly because I think Jessica would like another female to speak to.
We're gonna have to be real careful on that because Elizabeth's brother actually lives in Omaha, and we have to go there without letting him know that we're going there.
Been
Well,
there. All right.
hope he doesn't watch.
He doesn't. I don't think he has internet.
So the next trip, and I feel like, you know what I feel like I ought to do? I feel like what I need to do is figure out who else is trying to get into the show.
oh, okay. While you're doing that, I'm gonna jump in. By the way,
I know who's here. We're gonna jump ahead.
Oh.
Greg Coleman is here. Greg, first of all, winter meetings, how's it going?
Going well. Yeah, enjoyed it. Right now I'm at the Hard Rock Hotel at the winter meetings in San Diego.
Yeah, we were out there in 2019 and I'm having FOMO looking at everybody's like posts and stuff. But the reason why I'm here, first of all, Greg, you noticed the hat I'm wearing.
James,
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna jump in here too. Greg and I spoke for the Baseball by Design podcast. I am wearing my Erie Seawolves cap right now.
I love it. You guys are just making my heart jump.
Well, Paul, did you just get a new Erie Seawolves Christmas ornament and long sleeve t-shirt delivered today? Because I did. So
No, I didn't. But I did have noted designer Dan Simon mail me this cap from his personal collection. So
see, I gave them money. No, I think between I think between the Hooks and the Seawolves, like outside of the Astros, like that's what I own the most. But we are finally excited to get up. I feel like Greg, we have been online dating for so long, and it's finally going to happen.
Don't tell my wife, but still. We're looking forward to it. It's gonna be great.
Well, what can we expect? Real quick. First of all, congratulations on the new design as well, which I don't have anything yet, but I will. But what can we expect fan experience wise when we get out there?
UPMC Park is a great ballpark. It was built in 1995 for short season ball, and we had a lot of success with it. Moved to full season ball with AA, but over the years never really had all the AA amenities. Sorry, a little alarm went off there.
Don't worry.
A couple of years, we put about $16.5 million into the ballpark to add some amenities. So 1,500 square foot team store where all the stuff you guys are wearing comes from. Stadium club that can host about 150 people in it. Renovated suites, and I think about the great thing about the ballpark that hasn't changed is it's accessible and there's just not a bad seat in the ballpark. I mean, you feel like you are on top of the action. And yeah, I've gone to a couple of NFL games this fall, and while they do a great job with game presentation, you feel like you're not on top of things. And you come in our ballpark, and it doesn't matter if you're in the 17th row, you feel like you're on top of things.
My next question that I think is the one that Andy and I care about, maybe not the most, but you guys are an affiliate for the Detroit Tigers. Trey Cruz played up there. He's the grandson of Astros great Jose Cruz. Now, when I saw him with the West Michigan Whitecaps, Scott was there. We tried to get the Trey Cruz thing started. Did it continue when it got to Erie or no?
Well, Trey had a pretty small cup of coffee with us. So he came up later in the year. We were in the playoff hunt, and we had a lot of guys who, from a position standpoint, kind of had already been established. So he was coming up kind of to be a bat off the bench, guy like that later in the year. He'll be with us next year. He's a talented kid, and we look forward to having him in the lineup every day next year.
Well, we before we move on, and then we're jacked to be there. Paul, have you made it out there yet?
No, I haven't. I was actually literally just got back yesterday from Cleveland, and so I was wearing my Erie Seawolves cap around because I was on Lake Erie for the better part of a week. Like my hotel was right there by the Brown Stadium. Haven't made it out there. I wrote up for sportslogos.net and like I said, Greg and I spoke for Baseball by Design. I wrote up for sportslogos.net an article about this Howling Dead logo that they just unveiled that has been hugely popular, really well received online. That originated with a sketch that Dan Simon did 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
That was without the outline. If you take that red outline away from it, that was actually a sketch that one of the concepts that Dan Simon presented as a permanent logo. They obviously didn't use that one. They used the wolf with the eye patch instead, and so they kept that one in their back pocket. And so that new design has actually been sitting there on the shelf for like 10 years. And I'm really glad to see it get new life, get revived, as it were. So, because I think it's a great logo. And I think I'm really glad the Seawolves went with that. Plus, the Seawolves have this series of logos where they dress their Seawolf character up with all these different, they had Frankenwolf, and then they've got a Christmas version. There's, the Seawolves are one of the most fun brands out there in terms of the alternates that they come up with. So they do great work.
I feel bad for their social media, Greg, because now everybody's suggesting new things to put the wolf in. It's like, I was like, whoa, okay, just leave whatever intern that is alone.
Well, I tell you what, it's incredibly versatile. It gives us years of runway in terms of things that we can do. I told Dan Simon, recently that, we're ready to start working on the next set of extensions. What's that going to look like? So, hey, we're absolutely open to suggestions. We just want to make sure that it's marketable, it's fun. There are some limitations that, now with Major League Baseball, there's only, so many that we can do in a given year, and the lead times are incredibly long. I mean, at this point, we're talking about 2024 stuff, and that's got to basically be in development already. So, there was a time where we could do this type of stuff, and we could turn something around. And well, the Snow Wolves is a great example. We got 100 inches of snow plus in one winter. I think we ended up with 166 inches of snow. But we had gotten about 5 feet of that in the span of 2 days. And so we basically said, look, if we reach this certain threshold, we're going to play a game as the Snow Wolves. Well, we were able to come up with that logo, get hats produced, and get all of that through and have it ready to go by July of that summer. And that we could never do that anymore. The timeline is just too aggressive, and so you're a little less nimble. But it also means that the stuff you put out there, you've given a lot of thought to, you've planned it out very well, and usually it's pretty successful because of that.
Well, before we move to the next team, real quick, Paul, when does your episode with them come out? It'd be a good primer. I mean, we're going to have Greg on either before or after our trip in August, but when can we see the next episode of Baseball Design with those guys?
The Erie Seawolves were episode 51 on November 22. So it is
out.
The most. It is out already. It was 2 weeks ago tomorrow. So the most recent one is the Greensboro Grasshoppers. Erie Seawolves were before that, and so
don't I feel like a jerk? I was with the grandkids. I can't be.
It's quite all right. That episode features Greg. It features Dan Simon. And then it features Chuck Johnson from the Erie Maritime Museum talking about the actual maritime world there in Erie. So had a great time talking with all three of those guys.
Well, Greg, thanks for jumping on. Feel free to hang out if you want to. Is our bounce. We're going to move on to.
He's at the Hard Rock Hotel, and he's got to
stay in your hotel and talk to us.
I got to tell you, I got about 3 different receptions I got to bounce to tonight. None of them, by the way, are in this building, so I gotta jump from place to place to place. Plus, spoiler alert, I am a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, and they're playing playing a football game tonight, so I might want to catch a couple of plays there too. Well,
Greg, thanks for jumping on. Then we'll see you in August, and I'll be back in touch as we have a happy holiday, happy New Year. We'll be back in touch once we get kicking.
All right, sounds good. Happy holidays is what we say in Erie.
I love it. Well, we are going to go back to another celebration of sorts, because for Memorial Day weekend, we will be out with the Corpus Christi Blue Ghosts, which, Dustin, obviously we're going to have you chime in first, but there's a lot of reason why it's my alternative brand. And one of the things I loved is that Paul had me on his show when it was Hooks Day. And we got to talk about this and being a World War II guy and the cool history of the Hooks. That was this like ship that it was sunk and then they rebuilt. The Japanese kind of weren't sure and they started calling it a ghost. What can we expect for Blue Ghost Weekend coming up? And I know that you hinted at another design when you were on the show last time. I know we can't talk about that, but just a little bit about what the weekend will be like this May.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. We're definitely going to have a different look, something new that the first time I saw it, my jaw just dropped. So shout out to Courtney Merritt, our senior graphic. Oh man, she's going to kill me. I didn't get her title right. Senior graphic designer manager, something along those lines.
Wrong.
Regardless, I'm wrong.
Dustin,
That's a long title on the cards.
Yeah.
Senior graphic designer, manager, or something of those. That's cool.
I worked for a long time as a graphic designer, and I'm still with the same association, but our executive director for 10 years called me a graphics artist. And I said, Tim, it's graphic designer. For 10 years, he said, oh, Paul's our graphics artist and a graphic designer, Tim. So sorry. Go ahead, Dustin.
See, I got mad. Now I'm mad at myself because I always told Courtney, I'm like, hey, you got to get that right title on your business cards. So I've been yelling at her this whole time, telling her what it is, and now I can't even think of it on the spot. But she killed it with that design. She went over and, I mean, it's literally right next to the ballpark and just spent the day there to kind of go through the new look for it. So it's going to be really interesting when we get that out there. I think it's going to be fun to have a lot of the similar elements that we've done in the past before to my personal favorite, especially last year being my first year here, was going out to the ship itself and having BP on the ship. It was just, we've got our GM on a jet ski catching baseballs. It was just something that I would never think I would ever be a part of. And I'm so glad that I was.
Hey, Dustin, maybe just as an aside here, shoot me an email before that goes live. We'll cover it on sportslogos.net.
Yes, sir. You got it.
And shoot me an email. I know, Andy, I saw you kind of hold your breath when he said new look for the Blue Ghost. Have we already started squirreling away some money so that way that can...
Well, my problem is I've already worn out my F5 key every time that the hooks start hinting that there's going to be a new look. Can I order it? I have never been able to buy one of the specialty jerseys. And every time I've gone to the park, jerseys are always sold out. Now I've got caps running. I mean, I've probably got 10 hooks caps, but I don't have a jersey, and I want a jersey. That's my goal for 2023 is to get one of the hooks alternate.
Now, didn't you finally get the Whataburger one? Like you finally did, right?
Yes, like a year later.
I'm going to say, having been in the car with Jim when he was attempting to get something ordered from a place, from a different team that's not represented here tonight.
That was these guys.
Stress that was going through his brain as we were driving. Where were we driving? Illinois?
We were driving to Normal, Illinois. And so we were going in and out of connection. The guy from the team store is texting me like, yeah, we've held this aside, but you got to make this purchase now. And I don't know if it's going through. I've got a problem, guys. I got a problem.
We'll make sure that we've got merch for everyone. We'll find a way that everyone can get their own piece. I will make sure.
Hey, I wasn't even asking for that. What I'm happy for you guys that it sells so quickly. You guys are such a popular brand, and all the alternates are in such high demand that they just fly off the shelves, and that's great.
Yeah, but he wasn't thinking about himself, Dustin.
No, not at all. It wasn't a hint. I don't prefer 3930s in a small meat or a medium large.
Just taking some notes off. But I mean, like that was the same thing even with me when I first got here. As I got into the conference room and just saw all the different hats and all the different themes, and doing research when I had applied for my previous position before I got bumped up to director here, and I was like, how is that even possible to have all these different themes? And especially last year when we had rodeo that came out, that was awesome. And to have Mutton Bustin' on the field was something that we are doing our best to hopefully have that every single year that we bring rodeo weekend back, and all of it ties back to the community. It's not like we're just throwing this out there just to do it. Everything has some tie-in. Whether we were doing Dia de los Hooks before Copa started.
Sure.
Blue Ghost Weekend, obviously with Lexington. Rodeo Weekend is partnering with Buck Days here, so it makes sense everything that's been done. So I think specifically for me now being in this role is continuing that trend and always trying to stay ahead of everything, but making sure that at the end of it, like the root of it is the community here and how it all ties back together. But I don't know how you top honey butter chicken biscuits, to be completely honest.
The best part is I'm a fan of the look. I'm not even a fan of the actual meal. I'm definitely a breakfast on a bun guy, but I loved it. One of the cool things though, because like when the rodeo look came out, I had already decided to cover the night rodeo in Cody, Wyoming. So to get to wear a rodeo jersey and cowboy hat, I'm not saying the wife said to keep the hat on, but I'm not saying that she didn't.
You put it on her. Don't lie. Just to wear this. Just go along with it.
Now, Paul, our next stop, Paul, I think you have been to. So let's take a gander and you tell me if you've been here.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So talk to me about what we need to expect from that, because your posts are breathtaking.
Absolutely. Yeah. So first of all, just an absolutely, I mean, you've got some great backdrops, right? Like the Blue Wahoo's backdrop, with the Gulf out there, the water over the field, and this one, getting there, Smithfield, the mountains in the backdrop, just really good AAA ballpark. What do we have here?
We have a costume change. Andy has gone full Whataburger. Here we go.
I'm glad that happened off screen.
Yeah, for sure.
We're all thankful.
Great little, great part of town here in Salt Lake City. We went to this like remarkable sort of bar/burger joint right outside the ballpark when we went there. They were giving away these great ski caps with the Bees logo on it. I really like the Bees logo. The whole story about Utah being the Beehive State because of its ties with the Mormon Church, right? Like is really sort of interesting, and that's where this nickname comes from. I think the logo's adorable. I kind of love it, right? And so I've got a cap, got the T-shirt, been to a couple of games there, separated by a few years, and man, this is one of those ballparks where you want to get a get a seat in the upper deck because you get a view of that mountains. Get the upper deck right behind home plate. I mean, it's kind of like when you go to you see San Francisco Giants. I'd rather be in the upper deck than the lower deck because you get such a great view of what is beyond the outfield wall. So you can't mess with it. You're gonna have a great time.
Has anybody made? I'm excited to get out there. I don't know if anybody else has made it out there, but it's also one of the ones we're taking the grandkids, right? So Braxton and them are going to meet us, and it's obviously one of my favorite parts of the game. And the other part is going to be the other ballpark that we're going to see. And I'm actually going to go to Paul again on this one because I need to correct pronunciation. When you see the pre-recorded version of this in the finale episode, you'll see that I avoided pronouncing this. All right, how do we say it?
Oh, this is the Chuckers, the Idaho Falls Chuckers.
I was told that it's not the Chuckers because
it is. It's the Chuckers.
Oh, it's the Chuckers, not the Shuckers.
Right. Chuckers. Chuckers like you're throwing. Chuckers like the fat little game bird, right? So it's the Toledo Mud Hens of the Pioneer League. It's this like ridiculous sort of fat game bird that should in no way be intimidating. Another Dan Simon logo here, by the way. So yeah, the fact, and this was the site of the first pitch that I threw at a game was at a Chuckers game. So.
And I will be tossing one as well. Andy, the one thing that shocked me about this doing the research for it, I didn't realize that Idaho was pretty.
It is. It's got a nice combination of mountain scenery, but a little bit of plains in there where you actually have grass, unlike Nevada where it's just brown all the time. Idaho's lovely. I've spent time in Boise. On purpose. So there's that.
I can confirm. I just drove from Colorado to Gonzaga to drop my daughter off at her freshman year of college, and it was beautiful out there. It was absolutely beautiful. And I forgot to mention, by the way, in Salt Lake City, the ice cream, great hard scooped ice cream. So not just your normal soft serve fare, and they've got good helmets. So.
Well, and let me, Dustin, Scott, I'm gonna leave this to you. Can we just get past the point where we consider Dippin' Dots ice cream? Can we get past that?
So look, I'm in the minority here because if Dippin' Dots are available and nothing else is available, buddy, this didn't build itself down here, okay? Dippin' Dots is on the menu. If it's there and it's available and I got nothing else, I'm a Neapolitan Dippin' Dots kind of guy, or banana split. I mean, I ain't too proud, bub.
It's got the same texture, and I guess Dippin' Dots is never going to be a sponsor, right?
No,
That's-
I mean,
Not
if
now.
so, we can
It's got
delete
the
this
same,
episode.
They're gonna
it's got the
sponsor
same
me.
texture
My
of
business.
pill stack styrofoam. And my concern with Dippin' Dots has always been it's the ice cream of the future, but it's been out for 30 years.
Yeah.
What is
The ice cream
future?
of the future since 1995.
So in the future, it'll be. Look, man, come on.
Yeah.
You got to be like me, Andy. You got to embrace the craziness of life, and Dippin' Dots are the crazy.
You want to know my issue? I'm a Houston kid. I grew up going to NASA every summer. They feed you the astronaut food. And in my mind, Dippin' Dots is what's supposed to be astronaut food. Astronaut food is far superior, and it's worse than MREs.
I know. Justin, what
I
about
feel
you?
like-
Are you a Dippin' Dots guy?
I could probably count on one hand the number of times that I've had Dippin' Dots. Now, it's not like I have anything against it or that it was bad, but
They
it's
serve it in
just
your
not
stadium.
what I'm used to. It's like, to me, that's not the thing. Now, I will say we sell a ton of Dippin' Dots at the stadium, and the people love it here. So, that's not going away anytime soon. But if I had a choice, it's just, there's something just, to me, it's not ice cream.
Mhm.
I feel like you also have Bluebell there at the stadium. So, if I've got a choice, it's going to be Bluebell.
Guys, I got to say also, Dippin' Dots are popular too, because if you've got it in a cup, if you got it, somebody bumps into you, you spill some Dippin' Dots. It's not the same as if you just spilled like Ben and Jerry's or some other creamy Bluebell or something, I don't know,
And
all
if
over your shirt.
And if you buy
See?
something fragile in the gift shop, you can just pack it in your leftover Dippin' Dots and ship it off.
So there you go.
But Scotty,
Two for one.
wouldn't that spill easier with the Dippin' Dots? Not than the ice
Spills
cream?
out,
Wouldn't
but it doesn't stick to you the same way that a big glob of ice cream would come.
Fair.
Trust me, my daughter, who's 19 now, through her formative years, Dippin' Dots was like, oh yeah, sure, Dad, I'll go to the baseball game with you. Can we get Dippin' Dots? I'll go to the hockey game with you. Can we get Dippin' Dots is like the second sentence to anything she says. So I've gotten
Wow.
accustomed to it.
You know what's funny though, because Paul, you're a very peaceful guy. I have this image of you like raging if someone ever actually spills the ice cream that you're holding out of your helmet.
Yeah.
I mean, am I in the ballpark?
So long as nothing happens to the actual helmet, right? Like, because I love the ice cream. Like, if someone like somehow accidentally like scraped the logo off the front of the helmet or something, that's where if they put one of the ones that belongs on the shelf in the dishwasher, that's where I rage. But if I lose a little bit of ice cream to melting or spilling or whatever, there's more where that came from. I can afford to not have some, a couple extra bites of ice cream. But the take home item, if I'm with someone and they get ice cream and then they throw away their helmet, that's when the gloves come off.
This guy sends you helmets.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. And that's why you're America's greatest hero.
Now, I wish that Anna was on the show today because I'm going to be fulfilling a bucket list. And those of you who
Nice.
aren't following Anna and the baseball bucket list, we actually got to go to a couple of games with her and her wife Nicole this season. But check out, we are going to hit up Alaska. Now, I'm not sure whether we're doing the Bucks or the Oilers. I suspect we're only going to do one, but with it being Collegiate Summer League, those schedules really aren't out yet. So we're excited to get out there.
They got like 23 hours a day they can play, so your opportunities will be in abundance.
Well, it's funny because I know that you guys with Kerber Media, Paul, are doing like a thing, right? Where you're going out there. Is
We're
that what
trying
you
to get-
guys- Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting to the Midnight Sun game.
So, and Anna asked me if we were going, but unfortunately, that's like Fairbanks.
Yeah.
And we want to do lots of like whale watching, and Alaska is like Texas, only maybe a little bigger.
Right. Yeah, we're gonna hit that, and then we're gonna take a 2-hour train ride to Denali National Park. So
Okay. Now, Dustin,
Is that where the GMCs come from? They get the GMCs from Denali? Never mind.
were you prepared for how big Texas was when you drive through it?
No. And that's, coming from Florida. Well, I grew up in South Florida, so we didn't even drive anywhere because it's going to take you 6 hours to get out of the state. So I was like, I'll be used to it. It's no big deal. And then when I realized when I was driving here from Biloxi of how long it took to just on this portion, and then once I got here, I thought, I'm like, well, I didn't really think about bus trips because the guys are just traveling on buses. I'm like, the amount of time that these guys spend, and I was talking with our broadcaster, I'm like, dude, this is crazy how much time you guys are taking to get from one spot to the next. And you're not going in a different state. You haven't even left the state yet.
That's the best sign if you're coming in on I-10 because you survived Louisiana again. But there's a sign right when you cross the border that says Beaumont 23 miles, El Paso 857 miles. It's the same state, guys.
Like for me, halfway to LA is still in Texas. We've made that drive a couple times for the film business. Now, so when we say it's long, we say really, eh? And I'm going to use it like we're talking like this, eh? Because we're going to get to our next team that we're going to go see. Oh, you betcha! I know I'm Minnesota now, but we're going to be going international. Andy, at what point are you going to message Mike Donis and tell him I was mocking his country? I hope it's soon, actually.
I don't think you want Pete winning on your ass.
I do not. And that's a joke 3 of us get, but it's fine. Vancouver Canadians, look, it's weird because it's fun to take the show international, but also I've ever since I was a kid, there was a show on Nickelodeon called Danger Bay, and it was like this action marine biologist living in Vancouver. And since then, I've wanted to go to Vancouver. So here we go. Going to our very next one, we're going to stay international.
Can I jump in real quick, Jim?
Yes, please.
Vancouver was a huge bucket lister for me, and I hit it this summer with.
That's right.
Yeah. I hit it with Baseball by Design wildlife consultant Ranger Amy Burnett. And she's a huge fan of the TV show Virgin River. So we actually we drove up to take a ferry to Bowen Island, and we went and saw like all the landscape that they shoot in the TV show Virgin River. But Vancouver Canadians was a great baseball experience, packed ballpark. It was like a fireworks night or something. And so it was just jam packed. Really good fans, like following the game closely, and pretty, not a lot of huge amenities with friends like these. Who needs anemones? Not a lot of huge amenities and whatnot, but I did get my Vancouver Canadians water bottle.
Nice.
So that was the closest thing they had. You're gonna love it though. I'm jealous that you're going back, and it was part of a great road trip, and just crossing over in customs, right, and saying, hey, we're crossing the border because we want to go to a baseball game was like a total fun thing to do.
Paul, did they have poutine? I feel like you have to have it, right?
We not at the ballpark, but they did have it. We had poutine overlooking the Salish Sea with some really good beer as we, on the afternoon before the game. And it's, I'm a huge poutine fan, and I know that that's sort of trite, but yeah, totally loved it.
Dustin, you speak poutine.
There's not a lot that I don't speak. I look pretty good, but man, I've got a gut. I'm hiding the worst of it. There's not much that I won't eat.
It's gravy and cheese curds on fries. What's not to love?
Right.
I knew I liked Dustin. Now you guys have me looking forward to Thursday night when I'm at the hockey game and I'm getting the buffalo chicken poutine.
Nice.
Gentlemen. Yeah.
Well, we're going to be going international again, and I'm super excited about this one. First of all, a very good friend of mine, Cedric Thomas Smith, is turning 50, which is only shocking because if you looked at him, you'd think he was not more than 32 years old. So that's really unfair. But we're going to go down to Mexico. So while we're there, we're going to be seeing the Tigres del Cantina Roo, which again, much like your bingo list, Paul, my pronunciation is off. The Tigres I got right. But yeah. I mean, I'm excited.
I think it's Quintana Roo.
Is that what it is?
Quintana.
I'm just excited to see Mexican League baseball. Like it's like legendary. It's one of there's a couple of international stops I have on my list. Obviously Japan being one of them. And we'll try to get that in 24 or 25, but very excited to get down to Mexico and see some baseball.
It just so happens that I'm watching the second season of Eastbound and Down right now. and Kenny Powers is pitching in the Mexican League. So this is incredible to me. I really hope you get to be there on Kenny Powers night. That would be awesome.
And I mean, since we're taking it on tangents, Jim and I were talking about Katie Mixon just last night.
We were, oh my God. Yeah. Cause she's in 4 Christmases and I have kind of a weird crush on her.
I've got a Myrtle Beach Mermen 55 jersey I can send you there. So
yeah, I long to kind of be Kenny Powers, but I'll probably be closer to Stevie.
Well, one of the other things that one of the other teams that we'll be seeing, and this was actually a really kind of one of the things that made Let's Get To starting to get popular is we were kind of one of the first podcasts talking about contraction when it was happening. I know Andy and I were on, and incessantly, Paul, I think we were already friends at that point. But one of the ones that was really sad for me was to see this amazing team get contracted, and we're going to go see the Vermont Lake Monsters. And I think they've done a really good job of pivoting and playing collegiate summer league ball and keeping that going. But one of my favorite brands out there. And so it's going to be nice to get out to Vermont, maybe get some syrup and all that snow. If you're White Christmas fans, but I'm very excited for the Vermont Lake Monsters. Anybody get up there yet?
Yeah, I went there in Baseball Palooza in 2015. We went there with New Hampshire and Portland and Vermont. Who else am I forgetting? Oh, and the Lowell Spinners. Yeah, great logo. It's sort of a community ballpark. Obviously Burlington, great live music there, great town, right? Like, so and then this was Bernie Sanders' team, right? Like, this was the one when all that contraction stuff was happening, that like Bernie Sanders speaking out against the contraction invoked the Vermont Lake Monsters, named for their own Loch Ness monster, Champ, of Lake Champlain. Yeah. And really, really like their logo, really like their brand, and I'm glad to see them still playing for sure.
No, exactly. I'm excited. I was worried about that. That was one of the teams I was worried about. Really nice fellers up there. And while on that same trip, we'll be looking at the Ocean State Waves, which is part of the New England Baseball League. Dustin, have you done much from a fan perspective, collegiate summer league baseball? Have you seen much of it?
I haven't. That's something that I want to dabble a little bit more. My first, I got into the system with the Greenville Astros, which was their rookie ball team out there, which has since been contracted and is now part of, I can't think of, they're
Appy
one of
League.
They were Appy League, but
It's
now
still called
they're
the Appy League, but now they're the Greenville Flyboys.
Yes. Well, and how do you say it? Do you say Appalachian or Appalachian? Because that was a big deal when I first got there. You got to say it the right way.
Really?
Appalachian.
Yeah.
I didn't know there were two different ways. No, I was today years old when I learned that.
Oh, there's not two ways. There's a right way and a wrong way.
There's the way they say it, and the rest of the world that got it.
The Hatfield say it one way, and the McCoys say it the other.
It's funny you brought that up though, because I have a funny story. We were playing a film festival out in Greenville, Tennessee, and this was again years ago. And the film festival was set on that Tusculum University out there, right where the ballpark is, and Quaker University, I think. And so they didn't let the festival advertise. Well, I'm showing a movie called Snatch and Grab, which is a pretty raunchy sex comedy that I ended up watching with no audience in a campus room with a screen against a whiteboard with no screen and computer speakers. And the whole time I'm in there, the festival runner's in there, and she kept talking about going to film school at USC. So finally it dawns on me, she means South Carolina. And after we're done, I'm so mad. And I go, by the way, in this industry, USC is Southern California. UT is Texas. Don't pretend to be something you're not. And then I left, decided I was bailing on the festival, start driving around the campus, and then I see the Astros logo, and it was like, oh, so that is my story. Now we are going to head out west. We're going to go finally get to meet a good friend of mine, Steve Wendt. We're going to meet him in person. He's the voice of the Inland Empire 66ers. It's going to be kind of cool with this trip too, Andy. We're going to meet like Ephus Tosser and folks like that who are members of Astros Twitter. Who it will be kind of fun. They live out there to get to catch up with them at a ball game.
Well, I hope we haven't lost 3 games by that point in the Astros season, or else Astros Twitter will have lost their minds.
I think this guy's usually one of the more rational members of Astros Twitter. But
I would agree with that.
Yeah. And then on that same trip, we'll be doing the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes, which has anybody been out to those games?
I've been to both of them as part of Baseball Palooza 2014. It was sort of the prequel. It was just me and one other dude. That was the very first Baseball Palooza, and my buddy Jeremy and me. And Inland Empire 66ers. That's a fun brand. They've got Bernie the mascot, who was really fun and actually like makes noises, like makes these sort of like goofy squeaking noises. They were the first baseball team I saw who had cheerleaders, which was interesting. And San Bernardino is, sort of interesting. You get to see what's the hotel from the Cars movie that has like the teepees in it. It's got like, instead of teepees though, they've got the traffic cones, and in Cars it's traffic cones, but in real life it's like a hotel. It's like a motel with all teepees. That's like right outside of San Bernardino there. You'd know it when you saw it. It's sort of famous. Rancho Cucamonga Quakes have a beautiful ballpark. Really nice. Kind of like the Wilmington Blue Rocks, right? Like single A, but super nice.
Okay.
Really beautiful ballpark. I think you're gonna love both of those, and just a distinctive part of the country to be driving around and really, really love it out there.
Hey, Paul, we just showed the Quakes on there. If you take a name like the Quakes, right, it fits really well, but that's difficult to get across.
Yeah.
How very simplistic did they do with that name just to make the letters look like they're shaken with a little fault line through it? Is that not? I mean, that's just like nuanced genius to me.
It's pretty clever just to sort of have like the texture of cracked rock basically be their whole logo. They do have a couple of dinosaur-based mascots, which so they do have some characters. Yeah, they've got a sort of a big one and a little one. But yeah, it's pretty unusual in minor league baseball to not have a character-based logo at all, right? Like to just have, cracked rock, which emulates the idea of an earthquake. And when I wrote about this team for sportslogos.net years ago, we talked about like, gosh, being named for a natural disaster is, can come with, it's a certain amount of peril involved in that. Right. And there actually was an earthquake while we were out there, which was sort of wild. So different from like the Lake Elsinore Storm, who are called the Storm, even though they haven't had a rain out there in 20 years. So, but yeah, really both, the towns and the ballparks, I think you're going to really enjoy both of those.
Yeah, again, looking forward to that. And I think those same members of Astros Twitter are going to be hanging out with us as well. Now we've already talked Erie Seawolves. Scott, I think you're ready to announce our next trip.
Oh, is this my Midwest League trip? We get to make a little hop, skip, and a jump over to Illinois to get to see the Peoria Chiefs. I'm looking forward to this because that's less than a 3-hour drive from me. So that sounds amazing. No, I don't know who they're going to be playing whenever we're there, obviously. But man, I think I think getting to see the Midwest League in the summer is great because it's not as hot as Texas.
Yeah. Well, and it's fun too, because we're also going to be able to meet up with a good friend of mine, Gary Warren, who's was a reality show editor who's not going to work from anywhere. So he's moved out of LA and bought a big house and everything. But I actually got to tour the ballpark when I was driving through after getting a speeding ticket in Peoria.
Nice.
Yeah. 7 over. 7 over. And he looked at my ID and goes, "Oh, you're a vet?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Cool." And still wrote the ticket.
Son of a.
I'm clearly in a hurry. So
7 over is great when we're talking about my golf game. But
right.
I guess with speeding tickets, never mind.
This is another one I went to on a baseball palooza trip, and another real nice ballpark. It's kind of no frills, but you're gonna love it. I think that the shift, the sort of the subtle shift that they made away from Native American branding while keeping the same name, right, shifting to the firefighter dog, was really sort of nuanced and well done. So I think and
then it makes it original, right? Like,
yeah.
Look, I mean, we can talk about the merits of all of that. Like, I think Spokane, the Indians show you exactly how to do it.
100%.
Largely Florida State does as well. I think clearly Cleveland didn't. So, but yeah, I think you're exactly right, because they've also created something that just simply doesn't really exist anywhere else. It's a fun dog logo. Paw Patrol Knight's a natural fit. So yeah.
They also have a cap that is my initials, PC. So
they do. Now, Dustin, I'm going to let you announce this one without you even know it. Dustin, who is the AAA team for your World Series champion Houston Astros?
Oh, I think that would be the Sugarland Space Cowboys.
Have you made it out yet to a ball game?
I haven't made it to a ball game. I did make it last year when they did their brand reveal. So
we were there too.
What?
Me and Andy were there too.
That's kind of unfortunate that man, we could have met each other before this could have started so much earlier
So
than
much
it had.
earlier. No, that was a crazy night too. And it's funny because, and I've talked to Paul about this, but Andy and I were both because the name had leaked, right? Like the name leaked about a week out.
Yep.
And Andy and I were both, I think, very unsure. There he is. Andy and I were both kind of unsure about the name until we saw the branding, and then it was completely sold us.
Correct. Yeah, I kind of felt the same way with it. At first, I didn't really know if I have issues just before I can see something. You know what I mean? I'm a very visual person. So once everything came out, I really understood it a lot more. Plus, Orion, I mean, he's pretty cool.
He's almost as cool as Orbit.
It is exactly what Dustin was describing earlier. Sometimes these things get a little bit silly, and it would be very easy to take something like the Sugarland Space Cowboys and make it really silly, and somehow they made it really cool. Which I don't think they went too kitschy, but just kitschy enough in areas. I think the uniforms there are fantastic. I changed into one. And one thing you're not going to be able to see, because I think we're broadcasting in 720p on my camera anyway, is the star detail in the sleeves. And the home uniforms have a rainbow gradients. It's kind of a homage to the Astros, but done in a completely modern way. It's just a really
something the Astros should probably copy, actually.
Yeah. I kind of think that you start looking, if you're the Astros, as the Hooks and the Woodpeckers and Space Cowboys, especially, as testing grounds for some of the things you're going to want to do with your major league uniforms. That's another show.
I bought 2 Skeeters jerseys, and then like 2 months later, so
that's right. I'm going to be for Jimmy Buffett night, as I recall.
I'm going to be a little chapped about that one for a while. I'm just going to hang on to that.
I will tell you, having attended games this season, there are plenty of people who still show up in Skeeters gear.
There's actually a whole contingent of people that are still pretty upset about the changing of the name. And look, I get it. The funny thing that happened, so Andy and I were really smart and strategic. So we get in with press passes, right? And we're shooting everything early. And he comes up with the idea that I shoot B-roll.
Let's just tell the whole story. You had already made one purchase.
No, I'm starting with the one purchase.
Okay.
We're gonna finish. No. Look, one of us is a professional storyteller. I got you.
And the other one's Jim.
No, so Andy gets in line, right? So right when the thing opens, he's the first one there. He had my credit card. He had a vague shopping list, right? He buys all this stuff. And then I realized that there was a couple things I didn't get, including, Paul, your hat.
My hat, which if I weren't tethered to my computer with these headphones, I would go get that hat.
Yeah. So I look back, and the line is stretched from the front of the merch store to left field and then wrapped around back, right? And it's Andy, what, hours long? It would have taken me to get
that merch store is just off of the right-handed hitter's batter's box. So it's that long.
Nuts. So Andy comes up with the idea of, you've got a big camera. So I walk in and I tell everybody, I got to shoot some B-roll. I cut the line. I shoot for about 30 seconds, buy the other stuff I want, and I walk out. And one of the guys was like, "Hey, wait a goddamn minute." I was like, "Sorry, dude.
Media.
Got stuff to do."
We had to leave and get dinner.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it does mean that we're already to the end of our trip. And this is actually what I'm very excited about, because I get to kind of do both things. I get to check out some military stuff, but also go see some great baseball. And that's going to be the Norfolk Tides. Again, kind of one of my also I love the color scheme. It's just so much fun. And it's actually one of the teams I watch the most on MILB TV. So I've already kind of feel like I got a little bit of a familiarity with the brand.
You're not going to get in a fight with any Navy people out there, are you? You're going to be cool about that part, right?
No, I tend to only try to pick on Marines.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how that works.
Marines are nothing more than a function of really good marketing. Okay. By the way, does everybody know how a Marine says helicopter?
Okay.
All right. Any comments on the Tides before we get out of here?
Great logo, great branding. A team that's been around, God, since I knew about minor league baseball. I remember Norfolk Tides being out there. It feels like that should be a great trip.
Well, one of the things that I want to do before we get out of here, because this is obviously the precursor to the season finale. The season finale does come out tomorrow, and the cool thing is all four of you guys are so key and instrumental to the success of the show this season. So first of all, Dustin, thank you for all the hospitality when we got out to Corpus. Thank you in advance for Memorial Day. I can't wait.
It's going to be fun. I'm excited to have you back out again. I know that was the first time you came out was real quick, and as the season was going and my department was a little short. It was like, hey, come on in, and I guess just go do your thing. I'm excited to have a little bit more time this year where we can sit down and talk a little bit more and hopefully show a couple more, some various new things that we got going on here at the ballpark.
Very excited for that. And of course, Paul, you and I hanging out, watching some Rocky Mountain Vibes doubleheader. What a great time that was. Remember the guys we got drunk in the front row that were already well on their way?
Who you supplied with further beers. And I'm prompted here, and Jim, you've been real gracious about this. I have completely neglected until now to pay up on my end of our World Series bargain, our World Series bet, where your Astros fair and square beat my Phillies, and I owe you a Clearwater Threshers cap. So that is I've actually got it up on my screen right now. I'm plugging in your mailing information, and I'm making good on my end of that bargain. And so maybe you guys losing Verlander and us gaining Trey Turner will be the shift in power that we need to finish the job next year.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have Verlander on the hill, you don't come back from 6-5 runs down. Oh, sorry. And then obviously, Scott and Andy have been inherent to this show. Scott was there, helped me come up with the idea. You guys are the best producers a guy could have, and I appreciate you both for always listening to whatever silly idea I have and the occasional good one.
I feel like we 103 degree heat in Tulsa, Oklahoma. What better place to come up with ideas to
in
create a
April,
baseball
you
show?
Guys, in April.
It was
still don't.
hot.
Yeah, I still don't understand how we're going to do a Major League highlight show in August. But, I mean, if that's what you want to do, we'll continue to expand the brand, Jim.
We'll work on it. So that does wrap up the live portion. And again, tomorrow we will be launching or dropping our season premiere. And then I'm going to take some time off. And then Baseball Santa will be back to host our holiday special. And remember, just like Peanuts and Cracker Jack, Christmas presents this year are always better when you get more than one. So let's get two. Now I'm going to awkwardly reach over and hit end broadcast. Hey guys, thank you so much for taking